Hey everybody, this is the LEGO Architecture San Francisco Skyline set. Now, I was born and raised within visual range of this exact skyline here. I have worked in San Francisco multiple times. I've visited countless times. I've sailed the San Francisco Bay. So I actually am more qualified to give this a fair review than I have been of any of the other architecture sets to date. So let's see what we've got here. The most striking part of this build is definitely the Golden Gate Bridge representation here, which is done in a most interesting way. They've added a very, very strong forced perspective to it, which gives it a certain depth that I find very interesting and different and cool. It's kind of artsy and it works. Now, when you look at this up close, it doesn't entirely make sense. The bridge is actually supposed to go through here, and it's supposed to go through there. And here, they've got one on one side, one on the other. But I'll tell you, if you put this up on a shelf where most people are going to be displaying a thing like this, it looks right. It looks right from a distance, and I like what they've done overall. The choice of dark red is probably controversial to some. The actual color of the Golden Gate Bridge is a very, very slightly orange red, and it's a pale red. It's like a desaturated red. I personally probably would have preferred a regular LEGO red color here, but I understand the use of the dark red. There are a lot of shadows at a lot of times of the day from a lot of different perspectives for viewing the real thing, and this also kind of tones it down a little bit so it doesn't steal the show quite as much as it would if it was full red, regular bright red, relative to other Skyline sets that people may display this against. So the forced perspective here is kind of showing this from the perspective of, I don't know, like Crissy Field, or somewhere approaching the Golden Gate Bridge going towards Marin County. And yeah, that's cool. It's a lot more interesting than making it a little bit more realistic. I probably would have gone for equal height here. Probably would have been a little bit more iconic, but I feel like this was brave, and I appreciate that bravery of the designer. Down at the base, you get just the tiniest representation of Fort Point, which is fine. I get it, and I appreciate that little inclusion there. Makes sense. You get a little bit of the bay here, which is looking a little bit more calm than it actually would be. They try to put a little bit of suggestion of waves over here closer to the coast, but it's a very, very turbulent area of water, but it's fine. It's perfectly fine. And then you have Alcatraz. This is probably my favorite part of this entire build. They introduced this new printed brick, 1x2, with just a print on one side. This looks really good to me. Again, this is viewed from around the north shore, with the lighthouse viewed over on the right hand side, and then the water tower on the left. That's what this represents here. So yeah, again, that's fine. I mean, there are different angles you could choose for that, but this looks great to me. It was a good little build. It's a good representation, and I'm very happy with this. And across, they also give you just a little bit of the representation of the Marin headlands where the Golden Gate Bridge lands. And then let's talk about San Francisco itself. So downtown San Francisco is represented by some of its major landmarks, including Salesforce Tower, which kind of came out of nowhere and just took over the skyline of San Francisco, being the tallest building there. It's a relatively new development. This represents Transamerica Tower. This is Bank of America building, which is now just 555 California Street. And this little white one here could be any number of buildings. Just to grab one at random. They didn't officially title it, but to grab one at random relative to the position to this, I could call it 650 California Street. I mean, it could be a bunch of things, but let's just focus on these three big ones first. I think that the Salesforce Tower is represented really, really well. The build for that is good. I especially like the detailing around the top, the shaping around the top, and it looks good from different angles. I mean, the whole entire build is really not intended to be viewed from the back side here like this, but the thing actually is covered up around the back, and including the Bank of America building, 555 California Street. So yeah, I like that. Looks like there's one little piece that I forgot to push down quite enough. There we go. It's a little bit better. A little bit better. Transamerica building is interesting. Interesting part usage. They captured the shape kind of, sort of, in a way. I don't know. That's debatable. The fact that it's white, I can go with that being white. Let me just grab the box. They do have a decent picture of it there. Yeah, I mean, you get the general idea. It's too bad that these spiky pieces couldn't actually be printed, but they're kind of rubbery. They're flexible, so I don't think you can actually print onto that reliably. But I get it. You see it, you know what it's supposed to be. The 555 California Street, still difficult for me to not say Bank of America building, is also great. Brown is the right color for it. Oftentimes it looks kind of black in pictures, but it actually is a slightly desaturated kind of dark brown. I think that regular brown is a better color than dark brown. Just looks better on the skyline here, and that has just a perfect build, a good shape to it. It could have had a little bit more depth, but I don't see how at this scale. So I'm actually pretty happy with that. And then let's get down to some of the littler stuff. So of course they had to have a representation of the Haight-Ashbury painted ladies row houses that are represented in a lot of touristy materials, and they're associated with, I don't know, they've been used in at least a bunch of TV shows regularly, in cutaways and such. And then this is Coit Tower over here, and both of these builds use this 1x1 printed plate piece just in white, which adds a little extra detail, and it's nice. It's much better than having no detail there used at all, and yeah, it just helps. The positions of these relative to each other is completely nonsensical, but I'm okay with that. I think that they were arranged in a way that where you can tell that they weren't trying to put them in the right order, and it's just trying to be representative here. If they wanted to be a lot better with it, then they would have put these back here. They would have put this just a little bit closer to the front of it. I think that could have been worked out. I feel like it would have been possible, especially since this does have extra depth already, but I'm okay with this position. I really like the suggestion of the cable car tracks. So they've actually got I don't know if this was the original intent for this, but it kind of looks like it with the seam there. It looks like a cable car track that's headed up the hill there, but they also have the more unquestionable cable car suggestion going down the middle of the street right there, which is very nice to see. So you can actually kind of get into the city just a little bit. Cable cars don't run everywhere in San Francisco, but they are very, very recognizable and definitely belonged in this setting. The biggest problem that I have with this is the order of the big buildings. See, little ones, don't really define the skyline, so they're more just representative of the place. So I'm personally okay with those being moved around a bit. And the perspective on the Golden Gate is just an artistic choice, which, may not be the best to some people. It's definitely not the best to me, but I think it's interesting. And, I respect the designer's choice there. The order of these buildings here was also clearly an artistic choice. And I think it was a bad one because it does not represent the actual view of the San Francisco skyline. You think of the San Francisco skyline, you think of pictures of it taken from the bay, which is toward you. It's that way. The San Francisco Bay is all on the camera side of all of this. Or you think of pictures that were taken with a telephoto lens from Berkeley, like the Berkeley Hills, or even the shore, but especially from the hills where you can really just see everything because there's nothing between you and this scene. And viewed from any of those locations, the order is, and it's very, very obvious, the order is left to right, Salesforce Tower, Bank of America building, Transamerica pyramid, they call it, not building, not tower, pyramid, officially they call it. So that's a mix. It's not even a reversal of this. It's just a mix. It's as if these were randomized. Just really they're put there to to give a certain shape that the designer found to be aesthetically pleasing. I find it to be aesthetically unpleasing because this is showing the Salesforce Tower way back along the coastline. It's just totally the wrong place. From this view, it should be over here, at this corner, absolutely at the corner. And then you'll see this guy, and then you'll see this guy. That's the order that it should be. So this is absolutely wrong. The only place is where you'll see this sort of order of these left to right is from like the southeast edge of the city. AT&T Park, maybe if you're lucky, but that's not a good place to see the skyline. You can see it like this from Potrero Hill, just barely. But again, there you're inland, looking towards land. You're not really looking at the skyline. So this is just very, very awkward to me. This is a view that I have never seen and never will see for the San Francisco skyline on the whole. Interestingly, the first page that you open up in the instructions shows you a nice view with an ordering of the Transamerica Pyramid and the 555 California Street building that is reversed to what's here. And I believe this photo was taken before the beginning of construction on Salesforce Tower, because it would be way back in the background, I believe, showing up somewhere around here. And this picture is probably taken from Coit Tower, if I'm not mistaken, or thereabouts. Yeah, so in order to get the view that you see here, you have to be all the way back there, way down there, which is out to the south. And one last thing on that point, sorry. If you were viewing it from Potrero Hill or thereabouts, you would see the Bay Bridge over here, the one that goes to Oakland. The Golden Gate Bridge would be way back here and you wouldn't see it. It'd be way off there. So it's just so jarring to me. I wish that the three big ones were reconfigured, replaced differently, and it would have made sense. It would have actually looked like a representation of the San Francisco skyline. I also really think that the more that I think about it, the more that I look at it, I really think that the painted ladies could have been put on this side, and then the hill could have been peaked right here. It could have gone down, put the Coit Tower closer over to this side. Would have made more sense. Would not have been quite perfect, but again, I'm okay with moving some things around, but just not the biggest, most important things that define the very silhouette and the skyline for a skyline set. There you go. I like so much about this. The build was definitely enjoyable. The end results are very confusing, and some of the end results are very confusing, and I would expect controversial for people who have actually seen the San Francisco skyline, especially those of us who have seen it all our lives. Oh yeah, almost forgot. The leftover pieces, dusty pile of extra pieces from this set, does include some of the, or at least one each, of some of the more interesting and, in my opinion, valuable parts from this set, including the printed 1x1 brick there, the white lipstick piece, this white flower, these two double slope pieces in tan, and the powder blue. Forget the offhand right now the exact name of that one. This is a hollow stud here. They just don't have extras of any of the recolored pieces that were used on the Golden Gate Bridge itself. These are just existing. Both of these dark red ones are existing, but they don't have the end piece or anything like that. But a decent selection of these parts. And again, of course, if you want to see the build of this, it's already up on my build channel, and you can see a link to that in the pinned comment, the comment card on the side of this video that you're already presently watching, and also in a link at the end of this video. Anyway, those are my thoughts, and feel free to disagree, of course. Thank you for watching. I will talk to you again very soon.